So before we move on to, I mean, it falls to me to really introduce the actual Queen of Ireland, and I can't really believe it. But before we do that, I'm going to ask everyone just to turn their cameras on really quickly, because we're going to get what's going to stand in for the group photograph, or the group screenshot of LGBT Ireland's Volunteer Conference 2020. So I understand that Claire is going to take a quick screen cap if everyone can put on their I don't know, you have a moment to make yourself look beautiful, and then put your camera on, and we're going to get that picture, and then I'm going to hand over to Panti to round out the day, talk about the 10 years, and announce the above and beyond recipient.
Okay, everybody, so just a nice big smile.
Cheese.
Thank you.
Perfect. Over to you, Panti. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed that. I sort of feel guilty on it. I didn't tune in earlier when I had the chance. I love Tony, by the way. We've had him on Panti Talks a few times. He's fabulous. Paula, I can't see Paula up there, but I'm hoping to God she's not wearing the same outfit as me, because that has happened a few times. Asked me to come on and say a few words here at the end, and I I don't know why I get to do all this stuff. I think it's because I'm the pretty one. But I actually want to congratulate you on the 10 years. And it's been a pretty incredible 10 years for queer people in Ireland. I mean, the changes have been pretty dramatic. But I also want to thank you, because unbeknownst to you, you guys and people like you were helping me with my project over the last 10 years. Because I'm often accused of being a gay rights activist, but I always slightly balk at that, because that's never how I've seen it. What I've always felt was my personal project was about trying to expand the definition of Irishness to include someone like me. Because when I was growing up in small town Ireland, I always felt like my very Irishness was somehow considered suspect because I was a queer. Because there was no place certainly in small town Ireland, for queerness and Irishness at the same time. And I didn't tick any of the boxes that I felt you needed to tick in order to be considered fully Irish and to be fully at home here. I didn't like U2. I didn't play football. All the things that I was meant to be or do or like or enjoy, I didn't. And I felt, I jokingly say, I felt a great affinity always with Irish Protestants, because I think their Irishness was always being called into question too. They were considered not fully Irish, or something suspiciously un-Irish about them, because they didn't tick one of the important boxes, which at the time was Catholicism. And so I always felt that. And at the time that I left Ireland, I ran out, and I thought I was never going to come back, because I wasn't sure that there could ever be a place for me here. And when, through various life circumstances, I ended up coming back, that was my personal project. I wanted to make a space where I could feel at home in this country. And I wanted to somehow expand the definition of Irishness, or make the definition of Irishness elastic enough that it could stretch around somebody like me. And that has run through everything I've ever done. Even things that maybe it isn't so obvious on the surface, even something as stupid as the Alternative is Ireland was always about Irishness and about queer Irishness. And we did it on St. Patrick's weekend, and the set always had some sort of stupid Irish connection and everything. And it was constantly to reinforce that idea that you can be queer and you can rub glitter on your arse and run around and be fully Irish at the same time. And that project was my own personal bugbear. And in many ways, a large part of that project has been achieved, I think. I think especially with the marriage equality referendum, because the whole country voted on whether queerness and Irishness can coexist. But people like you and the helpline has always been there in the background, I feel, working towards the same goal, even if you didn't articulate it in the same way. Because people ring the helpline, in my day it was tell a friend, because they didn't feel at home here. and they needed another family in a way. And so I have benefited from the work that you do indirectly, because you did help change Ireland and make the definition of Irishness more elastic. And so I want to personally thank you, because I always feel guilty because I get a lot of credit that I don't deserve, because I'm big and beautiful. So people are always wanting to say nice things about me, but I think people like you are the ones who do the real work and don't get enough credit for it. So I want to personally thank you for making my project almost done in some ways. That's not to say there aren't problems, of course, but the change in Ireland has been remarkable because of people like you. And I am now in this super lucky position where part of what I get to do is to go around the world to other countries to tell Ireland's story. And it has become something very important to me because I've seen the effect that our story has for other people. And so if I go to somewhere at the moment, say Poland or Turkey or Egypt, or I always think particularly of one incident in Bosnia-Herzegovina, it shows you the power of our story for other queer people around the world. So I was in Bosnia-Herzegovina, in Sarajevo. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's beautiful. But it's a really, really, really difficult place to be queer. There are no queer spaces. There's no gay bar. They have what, for the older queers here amongst you, like that, I thought of like Barclay Dunn's was. It's sort of a misfit bar. So there is one bar where you might find a couple of lesbians in the corner, and then in the other corner will be some rockers, and then the other corner will be some bikers or punks. They are sort of misfits. And in the month before I was there, that bar had been attacked 3 times by Nazis, neo-Nazis. And in the last attack, they dragged the barman out into the street and beaten him to a pulp in front of everybody. And the theater that I was at, they were lovely to me, but they didn't put any pictures outside like they do for other events, because they didn't feel safe to publicly advertise that there would be a drag queen in the theater. And so the posters only had text, and they hired extra security on the night to be on the door. And so the people who came that night were, in a way, they were taking a risk coming. It was a brave thing for them to do. And afterwards, I'm chatting to some of the people who were there, and this young lesbian, about 17 years old, came up to me and thanked me for coming. And I felt that was so ridiculous. Why was she thanking me? Should be thanking her for the bravery of coming. And then she told me about her life in Sarajevo, and it was pretty grim. And she had no hope for change. So I think when you're a 17-year-old lesbian, and that is where you're living and that is your life, and I remember being 17, and sometimes it can feel like nothing will ever change, that this is what you're stuck with, that change, that kind of big dramatic change that you want is not ever going to be possible in that place where you are. And then this big stupid drag queen from Ireland comes along, and I tell her that when I was 17, Ireland wasn't that dramatically different from Sarajevo. We didn't have any gay bars when I was 17. I wouldn't have believed it possible that Ireland could have changed as dramatically as I wanted it to. And I'm sure to a 17-year-old, 30 years probably seems like, a millennium. But I am able to tell her Ireland's story, and she takes from that real comfort and inspiration and the joy of possibility that immense social change is possible in a relatively short period of time. And it's possible because people on the ground make the small changes in their neighbors' lives, in their own lives, in the people who call up their telephone helpline lives. And so I leave somewhere like that feeling really great about Ireland. that's not to say that I don't acknowledge the problems we still have, and you guys are at the coalface of that. But Ireland's story is inspirational and a source of power for people in other parts of the world who can only yet dream of the kind of changes we've achieved. And I feel really privileged and lucky to get to do that. It's one of the nicest things I get to do. And I get to do that because of the hard work of thousands and thousands of people in small towns and big cities, you know, all over this country. And I don't think they get enough credit. I think people look and they only see the big events, but they don't see the small changes that were made every day. I always think of Telefriend when I see a phone box, because I remember being the teenager with the coins going to a phone box. I'm sure nobody calls you from a phone box anymore. However, so I really do believe all that. I think Ireland has done amazing, incredible stuff. But I am aware, too, that there's still a lot of issues and nothing's perfect. You don't have to be on Twitter long to see that. And I see that in my own particular case, when I see that is around HIV. Because if ever I speak at all publicly about living with HIV, I know that for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to get emails and letters. People write to the bar, because it's easy to write to the bar. You can write me a letter. Or they find my email address and they email me. And I get these emails and letters every single time. If I've ever been on the radio or the TV and mentioned anything to do with HIV, from people who are living in small towns usually, not always, but usually. And they're living with HIV. They're often on treatment. They're healthy. And yet they're absolutely fucked up about it. And they're fucked up because they've never told a single person. The only people who know that they're HIV positive are themselves, the doctors at their clinic, and now the drag queen that they've never even met. They have never been able to share that burden with a family member, with a friend, with a co-worker, with nobody. And this thing that nowadays I treat so lightly, you know, I take my one pill in the morning and forget about it. And I can joke about it and laugh about it and say the weather's real AIDSy today. It's this light thing to me. But to them, it's this huge millstone around their neck. And the reason it is because Ireland hasn't finished fully this project of accepting fully its queer community. Because the shame and the stigma that they feel around their HIV is tied up in the queer stuff. And it breaks my heart when I get these letters. And it also annoys me sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you, because I want to say, snap out of it. Because they're healthy and fine, they're lucky, but I'm not them. I'm not living in Ballahadreen and playing on the local football team. And I'm not working in the local meat factory. So I'm not living their experience, and I can't even imagine how hard it must be to carry that secret with you, one that I get the privilege of treating so lightly nowadays, and it's slowly killing them. So I'm aware that we have lots of work to do still, but that doesn't mean that I can't look back over the last 10 years and think, fuck, you did great. And I'll finish by telling you this. One of the times I was most keenly aware of that, and I was so shocked and delighted. Last summer, I get a call from Ballinrobe, County Mayo, where I am from. And those of you who know small towns will know that, you know, if you get the name of your town into the paper, they will love you. So Ballinrobe loves me now. But Ballinrobe would have loved me if I was a serial killer. They don't care what you get the name of the town into the paper for, as long as you do. And so Ballinrobe will ask me to open the new Super Value or whatever. And I don't usually. But last summer, they asked me to go down to help them launch a booklet, which was produced by the Ballinrobe Youth Club, by the LGBTI group within Ballinrobe's Youth Club, And it was a guide to coming out, a glossary of terms to help explain it to your parents and so on. And I go down there to this little launch. They had designed it themselves, written it themselves, done the illustrations themselves, had it printed. And it was in the little, you know, youth club little room. The sergeant was sitting down the back of the room on a plastic chair. Mary McCarthy, whose, you know, mother used to sell me my Beanos and all that, was there. Everybody was drinking tea and dipping biscuits. And two kids spoke at the launch, one of whom was about 17 years old. His parents were from Lithuania. He'd grown up in Ballinrobe. He was wearing nail varnish and a little lip gloss. And I was blown away. Because the Ballinrobe that I grew up in, that was not conceivable. And yet here I was with my husband and my parents, both in their 80s, sitting on a plastic chair with the sergeant, watching this beautiful Lithuanian flaming queen at 17 years old, launching a booklet about coming out to Ballinrobe teenagers. It was the most incredible thing I've ever been to. And I just thought this is such a beautiful symbol of everything that has been achieved. So even though I know you guys are on the cold place all the time and you get to have to deal with the stuff that isn't finished, I think on your 10th anniversary, you're allowed to pat yourself on the back and say, God, we played a big role in something amazing, and long may it continue. So congratulations on 10 years. And here's to as many more are as needed, because I don't want to say it for 10 more years, but what if the miracle happened and we didn't need you in 7? So congratulations, and here's to many more. And now I do get to finish up doing something really fun. I get to announce the winner of the David Roach Memorial Above and Beyond Award. And is this just the second year it's been awarded? Yes. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to break the spell. There were 7 nominees, and the 7 nominees for this year's award were Sarah Phillips, the chair of TENI, Barry Kelly from the Out West Helpline, the late and fabulous Noel Whelan, Conrad Inn from Cork Pride, Sergeant Michael Hogan from Dundalk, Brian Carroll from Galway, and Gerard Sweetman, forward in Clonmel. And this year's recipient of the David Rose Memorial Above and Beyond Award is Barry Kelly from Out West. And being a good Western woman myself, I will admit I think that's a good choice. Do you want me to, will I read the blurb about Barry, or is that going to embarrass him? Yes.
Here, that'll mortify me.
Barry has been the cornerstone of the LGBT plus community in the west of Ireland since at least 1997, it says, when he was fundamental in setting up Out West. From there, he went on to help us, his big vision, which was to set up the helpline, of course, which he went on to do. That was in September 23. The Out West LGBT Helpline went on to become one of the founder members of the National LGBT Helpline. And at every step of the way, Barry has been working voluntary on or for the Out West main committee and the helpline. And basically, it says at the bottom that queers in the West wouldn't be queers in the West without him. Yeah.
No, that's a bit in over the top, but thanks very much. When Paula got in contact with me earlier during the week, I was shocked and I was surprised and I was humbled because I never considered myself to be in that kind of frame or category, when I consider all of the things that Dave Roach and all of the other people involved in this project have done down through the years. I'm very proud to be associated with it. As Panti said there, I got involved before the days of Out West in 1997 when we were Roscommon Mayo Outreach. Noel Farrell was the guy who set it up. Sadly, he passed away earlier on this year, which was a very sad loss for me because he was one of my oldest and dearest friends. But as I said, I was surprised and I was shocked and I was humbled earlier on in the week when I was contacted by Paula. And I'd like to thank very much the Out West Gay Helpline, Out West LGBT Helpline, who nominated me, and for all the other people for whatever reason, believed in giving me this award. But like, it's not about me. Like, I mean, all the people that I worked with down through the years in Roscommon, Mayo Outreach, and Out West, who were very, you know, we were in a different time. Like, I mean, you know, it was prior to the Equal Status Act, never mind the Marriage Equality Act. There was so much marginalization, there was so much intolerance. You know, me and a lot of people like Adrian Brendan, Marty Cook, and John Murphy, and so on and so forth, helped to make people's lives in Mayo, Roscommon, Galway, Leitrim, and Sligo a little bit easier. And it always gave me great pleasure and a sense of achievement when I might have, you know, identified initially with someone through a call through the helpline or through the information line, talking to them for a number of weeks, and then eventually maybe giving them the courage and you know, the courage to actually come along and to attend an Out West function. And to see that person developing from a frightened, terrified, marginalized, you know, West of Ireland person to someone who felt wanted and inclusive and included and happy, to me, that was my award. Do you know what I'm saying? So to all of those people in Out West and Roscommon Mayo Outreach and the LGBT Helpline, who I've met and developed great friendships with for the last 23 years, thanks very much. And, you know, I'll accept the award on behalf of Out West. All right. So thanks very much.
Barry, absolute massive congratulations from all of us in LGBT Ireland. I'll be crying in a second. It was absolutely hands down the best part of my week, was ringing you to tell you that you'd won. So, and just thank you. And really, I know we're all thinking about Dave today, particularly as it's 10 years and he was so fundamental to setting up the line. And I think it is absolutely a great honour to win. And I think you're very, very deserving of the award. So you're very humble, but absolutely fantastic, fantastically well deserved. So thank you. And Panti, a massive, massive thank you. You are so modest. I can't believe I'm saying that. You're so modest.
No, I'm not. Well, it's impossible to say no to you, as I'm sure people know.
Well,
nice.
So, and I just want to say that you are so busy. You are such an icon, not just in Ireland, but across the world. You did so much in the last 10 years, and you never, ever said no to me. So I'm going to ask.
I wanted to.
So you're an absolute legend on so many levels. So thanks, Panti, so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So it leaves me really to hand over, obviously, the Queen of Ireland we've just heard from, but there is a Princess of Ireland in the LGBTI community, and here she comes. Bernadine Quinn will lead us out. Thanks, everyone. It's been a fantastic day.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you so much from the Princess of Ireland. Thanks everybody for what was a fantastic day. And Panti, thank you so much. That was amazing. And I was just, as I was listening to you, I was thinking, wow, we'll have to put that out on Facebook, because I'm very fortunate that I'm in an LGBT community centre, and I see young kids like that Lithuanian kid explode into their true colours on a regular basis, and it's what keeps us alive. It feeds our souls, those kind of experiences. And I think you painted an amazing picture of that kid just with your chat there, and I think it's so important, and I hope that we maybe can put it out on our Facebook or something, because I think it was, you know, it tells the story. It just tells the story. So thank you so much for that. And for all you do for LGBT people and for Ireland across the world. You're a great ambassador, and we really, really appreciate what you do. And you've got a demented kitten and puppy running around in the back.
I do. Can you see? Can you see them?
The kitten's walking up and down like a But thank you so much for everything.
No problem. My pleasure.
Okay, and to everybody else in LGBT Ireland, thank you so much for a great day today. It worked really well, even though it was online. I thought it worked really well, and it was very well spaced out, and we all had plenty of breaks and time to move around and to engage in conversation. So thank you so much for that, for all the technical people who made that possible. In closing up, I suppose there's a few things I wanted to address, and one is, of course, as always, to thank all of the staff of LGBT Ireland who work tirelessly every day to keep us relevant, keep us surviving, make sure we stay funded, make sure we are providing services. And I thought I'd maybe take this opportunity to just go through some of the stuff that these guys have been doing. Very, very small team of people, but some of the stuff they've been doing over the last couple of months when we've been hunkered down in lockdown or before it. And to give you a sense of some of the stuff, LGBT Ireland, and we're all here because there's an LGBT helpline and we're all part of that helpline. But there's another whole piece of LGBT Ireland that in a lot of cases we don't know happen. Things happen and we never know how or where. So I was just going through some stuff, and I thought I'd give you a breakdown of some of the things these guys do. And when I'm talking about these guys, I'm talking about all of our staff in LGBT Ireland. So far this year, Paula Fagan and her team have been speaking to ministers around the issues in Poland, around the LGBT rights in Poland. They work continuously with older LGBT people and to try and make their experience in going into care better, or if they're not going into care and living alone, to try and make the experiences of older LGBT people as safe and as validated, I suppose, as it possibly can be. And that's a hard job, but they're doing it, and they're making great inroads into healthcare facilities and into organizations that support older people. So that's great work. They are working with, or they put together that survey on LGBT life in lockdown, and that's very important because we need to know how what happened to us over the last 6 months has affected us as LGBT people. We hear it on the line on a regular basis, and as some of the women from Samaritans and that said earlier, the calls are longer because people just want to talk a little bit longer and talk about their experience of having to have no contact with people or very limited contact and have stopped using LGBT services and so on. So it was, I suppose it's very important that that link is still there. And this survey is going to give us a lot of information about how those experiences are happening and how we can respond to them. We do a lot of work with a group who were completely invisible for an awful lot of years. That's LGBT asylum seekers and refugees. And LGBT Ireland are working and have a group that meet up of people from all across the world who've made their way to Ireland in very, very difficult circumstances. And they're here and they get support, and they get that support because of LGBT Ireland and only because of LGBT Ireland. And they go out of their way to make sure there's a few pounds that they're taken to Panti Bar for a drink to get that experience, that they have the entire experience of what it is to be free to be who we are. And that's a really, really important work that LGBT Ireland needs to keep doing. And they've also made great inroads with the travelling community and the Roma community, supporting people in there who were never supported before or the support was very limited. And now we've got LGBT Ireland that are keeping that link alive and communicating and supporting traveller people and the Roma community. Very, very important. Another real big piece, I suppose, a national piece of work that LGBT Ireland are involved in is the Children and Families Relationships Bill. And Paula Fagan has been championing this for quite a few years, since it was introduced and hadn't moved. And this year, in the last couple of months, we have seen amazing moves in it. And I got a text message only last week from a woman who was in the courts in Dundalk, and she had contacted me the night before and said, say a prayer for me and rub your relic for me, which I happily did. I'm very used to rubbing that. And so she said, will you say a prayer for me and rub the relic? We're in court tomorrow to get parentage of our son. And I said, I'll dutifully rub my relic and see what I can do. The next day, I got a text message from her saying, yes, we got him. And I'm now legally my child's mother. And she said, only for LGBT Ireland, and all the documents and the paperwork and all the groundwork that was done made it so easy going into the courts in Dundalk to get my child. And that is so, so, so important. And nobody else hears that. That was just a text to me to say, you know, only for LGBT Ireland. We might have got it, but it would have been an awful lot more hard work. But all the work was done by Paula Fagan and the team behind her. And so all those things are so, so, so important. Other things that are going on, I suppose, for LGBT Ireland are leading the way on is we are in deep talks with the Garda Síochána. We have met with them. They have taken up all sorts of training. We, as LGBT Ireland, are delivering training sessions that will be delivered to guards. We're developing them, drawing them up, and talking about the things that we know need to be talked about by to the Gardaí. So LGBT Ireland is doing that, and those trainings will be delivered later on in the year. We also have, I suppose, when you talk about what we're here today for, there is the LGBT helpline and the local coordinators groups. And so that's people like myself and Stuart and people from around the country who lead our helplines, Marty and Galway and so on. And when we come together to have conversations about the issues and the struggles, and then Paula's team go in there and fix all our problems and go and talk to Imagine about the broken broadband and the broken telephones and the headphones that won't work and all of those nightmares. And we just offload all that onto them, and they go and do their bit. And of course, all of us and all of our volunteers have all been trained. This team go across the country personally and deliver training, whether it's in Cork, Galway, Roscommon, Dundalk, wherever. They go and deliver training to our volunteers that answer the phones on a regular basis. And the other thing is our peer support groups. We've got 3 or 4 peer support groups that run out of Dublin, and they are coordinated and they are facilitated by LGBT Ireland and the volunteers of LGBT Ireland. That's like some of the stuff that LGBT Ireland leads. And of course, there are other stuff, bigger stuff that happens that most other LGBT organizations are involved in as well, like this Department of Justice, the LGBT strategy that was released late last year, and the work that is going on with that. Again, LGBT Ireland and the rest of us, we sit around the table and have conversations and a dialogue with people who make decisions about where the money goes and how we are supported to stay in existence. So I think for all of that stuff, I think we really have to thank all of the staff of LGBT Ireland for all the work they do all year round, and how they keep us functioning. They're all the wee mice in there on the wheels, keeping us going and keeping things moving. So to Paula and to the team behind her, I want to say thank you so much for what you guys do, because it's very, very important, and it makes our day-to-day life easier. Now, the other 2 things I have to say before I stop is to all of the volunteers who this year had an extra difficult job, because we had to take the telephones into our own houses. I found it handy because I could watch Netflix while I answered the telephone, so I thought it was great. But thank you so much for all the people who took the lines home and kept the services going, never closed down. Other services had to leave their buildings and so on and so forth, and we kept going and kept taking them calls. So thank you so much on behalf of the coordinators who help run those services. Thank you very, very much to all our volunteers, because without you, I say this every year, without you, that could not happen. So thank you so much for doing that and for making it an easy transition in all the craziness. So thanks so much to all of you for that. The other thing is to Barry Kelly, I love you. Well done. I'm delighted. David would choke if he knew you got that fucking award. He would be thrilled. Dave Roach would be thrilled to know that you're carrying a bit of him around with you. Congratulations, and well deserved, very well deserved. And one last thing. So, like, I have a bit of a history with Dr. Tony Bates. I got a bit of a surprise when he came on, because him and I know each other and not on friendly terms, but good. So it was interesting because as he was saying, quoting Freud, because you know that I'm a philosopher, right? And so I had an issue with him around Freud a couple of years ago in a very public place, and we had it out, and I won. Yes, so I have a history with Tony Bates. But I thought, well, as he's quoting all these people and that, I better find a quote that I could use to close off this little final thing. And I found this one, right? I don't have a clue who Seth Parker is, but he's my Freud for now, right? And I kind of based this around my life. This quote and working on the helpline all ties up in my life. And the quote is, you may not have saved a lot of money in your life, but if you have saved a lot of heartache for other people, you're very rich. And so for all of our volunteers, that's user Freud's quote, whoever Seth Parker is. And to everybody, I just want to say, thank you so much. It was a great day. And thanks so much to all of our volunteers and staff. We are doing fantastic work. And all we need to do is keep doing it and fighting with the government to get their pockets loosened a little bit more and a little bit more and get our hands in there and get as much money as we can to build our services. And it's these group of people that are doing it. So thanks so much to everybody involved and well done.
Thanks, Bernie.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you for that quote. That's a lovely quote. And I think Claire shared a little thing on social media the other day that said volunteers don't have any more time than anyone else. I'm not quite saying it right, but we have heart. And I think
right. Yeah.
that's so important. So thank you, everyone. Look, thanks for staying with us. Everybody stayed on, and it's been, I've got a lot from today. I hope other people have. We're going to, obviously you've had to listen and be in listen mode all day, so we're just going to unmute now for a minute as we close up, and if anyone wants to say any closing remarks or anything at all, and then we'll finish up in literally a couple of minutes or a minute or two. So it's over to you for the final word.
I'll just say I wasn't expecting it to be as enjoyable because it was on Zoom, but it was absolutely fantastic. I got so much out of it. So thank you to all of the team for putting it together. It was brilliant.
Brilliant. Louise.
Thank you.
Can I just say something as well?
Hi, Eileen.
Hi, everyone. I missed you all. And oh my God, I really, when I heard that it was going to be sort of like on Zoom and not together, which, you know, I love when we all get together as well. And I really miss everybody that I've met. But I really absolutely enjoyed every second, and great to meet Stephen as well. And I just missed everybody, and I hope next year we can all get together. But well done, and it's fantastic to be part of such a great organisation. And thank you so much for everything that you've done. I'm blessed. That's me.
Thanks, Eileen.
You're free to go. You don't have to say anything. We've kept you long enough.
Thank you.
Listen, have a great weekend,
Really uplifting.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Well done, Paula and the team.
Thanks,
Thanks, Marty.
Great. Well done.
Cheers, they're a great pair of headphones, Marty.
Thanks, everyone.